Erev Shabbat Shalom Rabotai. We are continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Rosh Hashanah. We are up to Perek Bet Mishnah Zayin. Today's Mishnayot should be Le'elu Nishmat Neria ben Svetlana Aranbayev and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov Minuchatam Began Eden Amen and Abdi ben Chaim Lechaim for Refuah Shenamav Bachabat Esther and Daniel Shalom ben Rosa Betoch Shah Chole Israel. This Mishnah describes how the Beit Din, after accepting the testimony of the witnesses, declares the day to be Rosh Chodesh. The Mishnah begins, Rosh Beit Din Omer Mikudash, V'chol ha'am onin acharav Mikudash Mikudash. The head of the Beit Din says, it is sanctified, and all the people who are present respond after him, it is sanctified, it is sanctified. Now the Torah in Sefer Vayikra, chapter 23, Pasuk 44 states, Vaydaber Moshe et Moed Hashem el Bnei Yisrael, and Moshe declared the festivals of Hashem to the children of Israel. By naming Moshe, who led the Beit Din at that time, the verse teaches that the declaration should be made by the head of the Beit Din. Verse 2 there states, Moed Hashem shetikru otam mikrei kodesh, which can be read as, Moed Hashem shetikru atem mikrei kodesh. Instead of otam, you read atem. The festivals of Hashem that you, the children of Israel, shall declare declarations of sanctity, indicating that the people too should declare it is sanctified. And he uses the plural form, Mikrei Kodesh, declarations of sanctity, to instruct the people to declare it is sanctified twice. Now the Mishnah cites a dispute about whether this declaration is made only when Rosh Chodesh falls on the 30th day, or even when it falls on the 31st day. Ben shenira bizmano, ben shelo nira bizmano. Whether the new moon was seen in its time, the night that starts the 30th day, which the Mishnah refers to the 30th day as its time, because the moon cycle is about 29 and a half days long, making it natural for the new month to begin on the 30th day. Now, in fact, the new month should almost always begin at some point in the 30th day. The reason it does not is that a month must consist of full days and not fraction of days. So again, whether the new moon was seen at its time, the night that starts the 30th day, in which case the 30th day is Rosh Chodesh, or whether it was not seen in its time, meaning it was seen either on the night that starts the 31st day, or was not seen at all, in which case the 31st day is Rosh Chodesh, Mikadeshin oto, they sanctify it, the day of Rosh Chodesh, with the declaration that we cited above. Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Tzadok Omer, however, Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Tzadok, says, Im lo nira bizmano em mikadeshin oto shekvar kiddeshuhu shamayim. If it was not seen in its time, in which case the 31st day is Rosh Chodesh, they do not sanctify it with the declaration because heaven has already sanctified it, meaning the 31st day becomes Rosh Chodesh automatically without a declaration by the court. According to Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Tzadok, the Beit Din is never obligated to sanctify Rosh Chodesh with a declaration, even on the 30th day. They do so only to reinforce their decision. Therefore, when the 31st day is Rosh Chodesh, a declaration is not needed at all, since it becomes Rosh Chodesh automatically without a decision on their part. And the Rav does tell us, V'alachak Rabbi Elazar, the Rabbi Tzadok, V'alachak follows the opinion of Rabbi Elazar, the son of Rabbi Tzadok. And that is then of Mishnah Zayin. Mishnah Chet continues. We learned in chapter 2, Mishnah 6, that the Beit Din would ask the witnesses a number of questions. This Mishnah describes how Rabban Gamliel, the head of the Beit Din, would examine witnesses who were too simple to understand the questions. Demut surot levanot yulo leRabban Gamliel betavla ubakotel ba'aliyato. Rabban Gamliel had the forms of different shapes of the moon on the table and on the wall in his attic, where he examined the witnesses. Shebahen maret ha'hedyotot ve'omer ha'chazeh ra'ita o chazeh. He would show them to the simple people who could not understand the usual questions, and pointing to different forms, he would ask them, did you see the moon like this or like that? Now the Mishnah relates two stories involving Rabban Gamliel, in which the truth of the witnesses' testimony was in doubt. It once happened that a pair of witnesses came and said, we saw the old moon in the morning in the east, and the new moon in the evening of that same day in the west. Now this is Rashi, page 25a's first explanation. Now at the end of a cycle, the moon appears in the east in the early morning, and at the beginning of a cycle it appears in the west in the early evening. Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said, they are false witnesses, because it is impossible to see both the old moon and the new moon on the same day. There is always at least 24 hours between the last appearance of the old moon and the first appearance of the new moon. During those 24 hours, the moon cannot be seen at all. Therefore, witnesses who claim to have seen both the old and the new moon on the same day must be lying. This is how the Gemara explains Rabbi Yochanan ben Nui's statement on page 20b in Masechet Rosh Hashanah. כשבאו ליבנה קיבלן רבן גמליאל, but when they came to the Beit Din in Yavne, Rabban Gamliel accepted them as reliable witnesses. He asserted that what they said about the new moon is true and what they said about the old moon is false. Rabban Gamliel accepted their testimony regarding the new moon because that agreed with his astronomical calculations. As for their testimony regarding the old moon, Rabban Gamliel simply dismissed it, believing that they mistook a wisp of cloud for the moon. Rabbi Yochanan ben Uri, on the other hand, ruled that their testimony about the new moon was false because according to his calculations, it should not have been visible that evening. On another occasion, a pair of witnesses came and said, we saw the new moon in its time, the night that starts the 30th day, but on the night of the month's fullness, the next night, which starts the 31st day, it was not visible. This seemed unlikely because if the moon was large enough to be visible on the first night, it should certainly have been visible on the second night. V'kiblan Rabban Gamliel, and yet Rabban Gamliel accepted them as reliable witnesses. Based on their testimony, he decided the 30th day was Rosh Chodesh. Now here too, Rabban Gamliel accepted that he saw the moon on the first night because that agreed with his calculations. He dismissed their statement about the moon being invisible the following night because it might have been hidden by a cloud or was invisible for some other reason. Other sages of that time disagreed with Rabban Gamliel's decision. Amar Rabbi Dosa ben Hokinas, Rabbi Dosa ben Hokinas said, Ed Shekerhen, they are false witnesses. How can one testify that a woman gave birth and the next day she is still pregnant? Literally, her belly is between her teeth. This is impossible. Likewise, in our case, it is impossible for the new moon to appear on one night and then disappear the next night. Amar lo Rabbi Yehoshua said to him, Roeh ani et dvarecha. I see the truth in your words. According to these sages, the witnesses were false, and so the testimony could not be accepted to have the 30th day declared as Rosh Chodesh. Therefore, they ruled contrary to Rabban Gamliel that Rosh Chodesh did not fall until the 31st day. And that is it, Rabotai, of today's Mishna Yomi. Everybody should have an Erev Shabbat Shalom. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.